Let's talk about White Noise, Noah Baumbach's latest Netflix comedy, which follows Hitler studies professor Jack Gladney and his family after an airborne toxic event forces them to confront their own mortality. A depiction of 80s Americana and relatable existential fears. White Noise is dense, almost to the point of inscrutability. But Art, what did you take away from this one?
I liked it, but boy, you saw it twice?
I did. It's one of those movies that I feel like it's not it's a lot easier to wrap your hands around once you get to see it twice because it's doing
Easily.
so many things
For
that
sure.
on that first watch it's a little bit like, okay, what is going on? Like what is your
John,
point?
we've been in line since 7 a.m. in the morning. It was one of the first big screenings. This was one of the first ones I was going to have a whole press conference, and they said, get there early. And boy, did I get there early. And so did Austin, because this is where we
Yep.
met.
Hmm.
We were waiting
Yeah,
in
it
line,
was.
super cold outside, waiting to get in there. And it was a jam packed showing there. The Q&A, the press conference, which is up. I really appreciate that from New York that they're filming it. So we could take our pictures,
Mhm.
whatever else, knowing that there's going to be a whole HD copy of all of the talks up on YouTube. Look,
Yeah.
I really like this one. Maybe it was really
Me
early in the
too.
morning. I have not had a chance to rewatch it again. I have also not read the book, and that seemed to be a really big thing for a lot of people who were there, who were fans of the novel, talking about what was missing, what was focused on more than something else. But for the movie that we got, and that's the only thing I could judge it off of, I thought it was delightful. I'm not saying that it's anything too profound, and I know that a lot of connections can be made when it's a story about a family who has to like move because there's an airborne virus and no one knows who's infected and what that's going to cause. Um, but it becomes this like I don't. I really liked the characters in this and the family and the way that you have everybody almost talking over each other to a way where that, and I know they described in the Q&A, that in and of itself is like audible white noise where you get to
Mhm.
tune in and out of who you want to pay attention to, as well as all of the different things that the characters are going through, not just within their family, but he's a college professor and you have his whole side, which is stacked
Mhm.
cast, bro. Let me look. Don Cheadle has this line that he says that had everyone laughing. I'm not going to spoil it. It was so uncalled for. When he said this line, you knew everyone in the theater has said that to a friend. They were outing themselves.
I
Jodie Turner
spoiled it in
Smith.
my letterbox review if you need to read it.
It's good. Jodie Turner Smith was fantastic as a
Yeah.
scientist who's there to get a lot of research. Andre 3000 does his little shuffle, and I've been thinking of that shuffle since I've seen it. It's a very funny movie. I was not
Very
expecting it to
funny.
be as funny as it was.
Yeah,
I didn't take it as seriously. I think if you're coming into this movie wanting it to
that's a
be
great.
as serious as maybe the
Yeah.
novel is, or how you wanted to take a Baumbach movie, you may take that to the next step. But I would highly recommend that Q&A because the way that Greta broke it down, especially towards the end, I thought was a profound way of looking not just at the movie but the perspective of life. That while you're
Mhm.
dealing with something and you're confronted with it, you may think it means one thing, but it can mean three different things at the same time, and it's how you choose to channel in on something. I was like, I don't know, that's maybe it might be a little bit more profound than I thought it was, but I very much enjoyed White Noise. I'm looking forward to seeing it again,
Yeah.
and the soundtrack was great. Danny freaking Elfman was there talking at
Oh,
the press conference.
Yeah.
Zach's boy was there
James
because he's a big
Murphy,
fan of
LCD Sound
LCD
System.
Sound System. He's got a whole new song for the movie, so I don't know. It hit on a lot of cylinders for me. It may not for everybody,
Mhm.
but I thought it was delightful.
Yeah, it's got to be, if not the most absurd Noah Baumbach film, then right up there. It's also maybe Noah Baumbach's funniest because, like, once you sort of like tune out the plot a little and just like tune into all the little bits going on and people like running into things at the grocery store in the background, like, there's just so much happening. And like you're talking about, that sort of like audible white noise. That there's so much going on in the film.
Yo,
People talking over each other, where especially on that first watch, I felt like I had trouble necessarily knowing where to put my attention at certain times. And when you kind of give up on feeling like you can catch everything and just sort of experience the things that pop that you know catch your attention, I think you're going to have a much better time with this movie because it is so ridiculous. The performances are so great. I think Adam Driver is like turning into one of our great comedic leading men. His just ability to be like so sincere in one moment and then just the goofiest guy in the next is so good. I had a great time with White Noise. Austin, how did you make heads or tails of this one? Because it's a lot of movie.
oh, it's so much to take in the moment. I Marriage Story was an amazing film that I watched several times that year in my top 3 of 2019, and so I was over the
That was a
moon
good
about his next project and did not expect White Noise to be so distinctly different from anything he's done so far. What I like about this movie, what I wasn't really thinking about as I was watching, you can approach this 2 different ways, but I think both ways you can still get enjoyment from it. You can look at it thematically and kind of how every few scenes you could bunch them together and it's going for something, it's trying to stand for something, it means something. And then when you get into the third act of the movie, it's almost like you're watching a completely different film, but you can still fit it together. Then you can look at it as a comedy. And like you said, the people talking over each other in the background, the things going on. I'm a guy who laughs at ridiculous things happening in the background of a movie.
Yes.
I
it's the
love that.
best.
I think it's hilarious. To me, that's attention to detail. That's
Hmm.
also sometimes the director just kind of messing with you. Like, hey,
It's
if you're
rewarding.
paying attention to that, you're going to get more out of it, right? So if you watch it as a comedy, you may be a little confused at times, but I think you're going to be so thoroughly entertained, you're going to overlook the fact that some of it doesn't fit together all the way. If you
Yeah.
watch it for the themes, you're going to see so many things that are going to hit you emotionally, but also that will resonate with you. I mean, my God, you could draw so many parallels to what happens in the first act of this movie to what's been going on in the world. So I think it's going to hit you in that way. So it's a fascinating film because it's doing so many things. Sometimes it's doing too many things, and I think it went a little overboard a handful of times, right?
Hmm.
But it didn't matter because it was so much fun. And the more I've thought about White Noise, and I need to see it again, the more I've really, I mean, this is one of the better ones for me at the festival just because it
Same.
gave me so much, and I can't wait to watch it again. Zach, I'm jealous you've watched it twice.
Yeah. I originally just bought another ticket to try and get Caitlin into some screenings, and then I ended up being really thankful that I got to, try and see this one again because I'm a little bit like I don't know how you two are doing it, talking about this one after only one watch because there's so much going on. It's got like the dialogue has the pace of like 40s screwball comedies, and then meanwhile there's
Yes.
these moments that feel like Spielbergian big alien set pieces. Like there's moments that
Oh,
look
yeah.
like they're straight out of War of the Worlds or something. And
Budgets.
it's surprising to see Baumbach take this kind of step up. I didn't know he was capable of some of this stuff, like as a filmmaker, just because he's
Mhm.
done so much more quieter, intimate, familial kind of movies than this one. And I don't know, it was cool to see him sort of, take out some new tricks, show us some new tools.
And for it to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
practical, because like Zach said, there's a lot of explosions and like car sequences, and he was just like, yeah, I've never really been able to play with that. If I'm going to, I want to do it the way that the movies that I did growing up did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious. It's gonna be Netflix. The film club's gonna do like a bunch of behind the scenes with all the
Yeah.
stuff he was able to explode. And then we're gonna get a whole wave of indie directors going and making big, massive blockbusters.